Suicide Squad is finally here from writer-director David Ayer, the man who brought us movies like Training Day, yes, Sabotage, and if you guys know anything about this movie or these characters, you know that it is an assemblage of the baddies. This is like the Justice League of the bad guys. Viola Davis wants to recruit these people to go out into the city to defeat this thing that's wreaking havoc in the middle of the city, and a beam is shooting up to the sky, and it's a big deserted city, and there's a battle, so, you know, it's a comic book movie. Or the new Ghostbusters. That happens a lot in movies, is what I'm saying. Now, I was really excited for this movie, not just because I enjoy the comics and I love these characters, but because of the cast involved and the director. I think Training Day is an excellent movie, and I liked End of Watch maybe even a little bit more. I think David Ayer's super talented, so I was so excited to see what he could bring to this universe, because not only is he directing, but he's also writing. So that's a big creative talent, working with all of these awesome characters and a plethora of great source material. We'll talk more about that in a minute. Let's talk about pros first. Will Smith as Deadshot. I really like this character. He's one of the very few people in this team that is given any bit of characterization. He has a daughter. You learn a little bit more about his past. There's a really integral scene involving another DC Comics character that gives him some humanity, and it makes you feel for him. I also thought he was very entertaining, and a lot of his jokes hit. That's another positive. This movie is more lighthearted. It does have humor, and it feels like the characters are having fun. Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn. She was exactly like the animated series character. She did a great job capturing that character's unhinged insanity, while also, similar to Deadshot, having just a small, thorough line of humanity peeking out of it. The first 20 to 30 minutes or so were pretty good, although there is a lot of people telling us about characters. There's a big difference between us watching something happen to a character and another character that we don't know just coming in and saying, here's what you need to know about this person, because we don't really have any time to set up these characters. Let's just get to the big beam in the sky. For instance, if you had never heard of Superman before, or he was a more obscure comic book character, and he comes on screen and somebody says, this is Superman. His planet was destroyed. He has no family. Feel bad for him. That's essentially most of the characterization we get for the members of the Suicide Squad, except for Deadshot and Harley Quinn, and a lot of their stories are told through excessive flashbacks. The brief appearances by Batman were awesome. Ben Affleck once again looks amazing as this character, and I want to see Ben Affleck as Batman in a great movie. Also, Jai Courtney was not awful. He was actually pretty good as Captain Boomerang and a fun and likable presence. Miracles do happen. And last on my list of pros, Jared Leto as the Joker. I think that he is doing something really cool. I think that he's doing something very different. I liked his portrayal of the Joker. It wasn't exactly like Nicholson. It wasn't exactly like Ledger. It was sort of a combination of the best of the both. And he also had some really cool visual things going on with his face and his outfits. There were some good moments with him, and that leads me into my cons. When I said there were some good moments with the Joker, that's absolutely what I meant. He's barely in this movie. Don't go to this movie excited about Jared Leto as the Joker, because you're not going to get much of it. His scenes are so minimal that when I think back on the movie, I can't think of that one scene with the Joker. I can't think of a standout scene. He does not have an interrogation scene like in The Dark Knight. He doesn't have a I thought my jokes were bad scene. He has nothing like that. He's just got a couple lines every here and there scattered throughout the movie. That was a big disappointment for me, because a lot of the marketing kept his performance very under wraps, like it was this big awesome thing, but in reality, they just didn't have that much footage to work with, because he's barely in this movie. The second and third act is a gigantic city scene. It all just kind of bleeds together and becomes one big messy scene. I could tell they were trying to make a more contained film, which I am all for. I love contained movies. I love smaller movies that have big ideas that take place in one small environment. But that claustrophobia just wasn't there, and that feeling of in the moment, real-time action just wasn't there, because there is some seriously choppy editing going on here, and a ton of shit was cut out. I know it. There has got to be a ton of deleted scenes on this Blu-ray, and I am really curious to find out about that, because there's also a lot of scenes that do feel very much so tacked on. There's this elevator fight scene with Harley Quinn that really felt like it was a reshoot scene. From the beginning of the second act all the way to the finale, it just felt like so much had been cut out and removed from this movie, to where it was just bare bones action sequences and a few conversations. Now, there was one aspect of this movie that I was very curious about, because because it was kept from almost all marketing, and that is the villain. Now, if you don't know who the villain of this movie is, and you don't want to know who the villain of this movie is, I'm going to talk about the villain now. I don't consider it a spoiler, but if you don't want to know who the villain is or my thoughts on said villain, then I will let you know that I'm about to discuss that. That's my way of respecting you guys. The villain in this movie is Enchantress. It's this witch character who can do all kinds of crazy things. She has a relationship with one of the people involved with the Suicide Squad, and so there's some tension there because she's also this witch enchantress that can take over people and make them do things. And she turns a random person into Incubus, and this guy just kind of starts wreaking havoc, and she just starts strutting around and doing like hip moves and making like weird faces and twirling her arms around. My one friend said she looked like she was hula dancing most of the time. And I gotta tell you guys, straight up, there were aspects of this finale that reminded me of Fan 4 Stick. It is that messy. At one point, one character is in dire danger, and you're positive this character is dead. Things are like, tentacles are like going through this person's body and shit. And like 5 minutes later, this character just walks on screen. Their clothes are perfect. There's no dirt, there's no sweat, and they're just like, hey, what's up? Yeah, I'm fine. So in truth, the storytelling here is very poor. It's a very choppy film. There are entire things that just feel ripped out and left on the cutting room floor. I'm very curious to see what this Blu-ray looks like in the special features. There are good portrayals of some of these characters in this movie, like the Joker, like Harley Quinn, like Deadshot. There are aspects of these characters I really enjoyed. I wanted way more Jared Leto because I was intrigued by what he was doing. There are some good jokes. There are some fun scenes, but the action sequences feel very pedestrian and there doesn't seem to be anything special about them. There's just a lot of weird shapes coming out of the sides of the frame and people slice through them and shoot them and nothing really happens of much weight or importance. Suicide Squad was very disappointing and I'm gonna give it a C. So guys, I've gotten an absurd amount of requests to watch Netflix's new show, Stranger Things. And I did, I just finished it last night. I'm gonna review that for you this weekend. And I'm gonna go see 9 Lives, the Kevin Spacey cat movie. Because I just want to. I just feel like it. We'll see what happens with that one. Guys, thank you so much as always for watching. I do appreciate it very much. And if you like this, you can click right here and get Stuckmanized.